we're going to talk about our experiences of creating our sections, our individual module. So maybe we can go in the order that you're going to be seeing all the modules. We have a welcome module. We have growth. We have a growth mindset, of course. We have purpose and relevance. We have sense of belonging. And at the end, we have next steps. And I did welcome and next steps. So I bracketed everything. The welcome is just a really hopefully welcoming slide video for all of you to dip your toes into the purpose and the goals of all of the modules. And we raise some questions that you might have, and we engage with some data to help you have faith that this is a pedagogical framework that will add to your own existing framework. And the next steps at the very end does something similar in that it asks you to think about, okay, now that you've really delved into growth mindset, purpose, relevance, and sense of belonging, where can you take that, right? And where would you like to take that? And to share your thoughts, your ideas with colleagues in discussion boards, in memes. And so those are the two sections that I created. I loved doing them. I wish that I had more time and more of your mental energy to really, and I think we all struggled with this, right? Like at some point we had to cut back. We couldn't, and it's a really a growth thing to not overwhelm people with material. So that was my experience of it. I really want to see this expand and grow, and to have a second iteration of this course available to people. So yeah. Brett, I think you did growth.
Thank you, Tram. Yeah. So I worked on the growth mindset module, and very briefly, growth mindset is just this a view of yourself and others that intelligence and skills and can be built, can be grown over time through effort and trying different strategies and getting help as needed. And I found, I've done several of the CUNY mindset experiences, right? And I found them all interesting, but the process of putting this together was really was helpful because I just got more in depth. And one thing that I kind of learned that surprised me positively was that the growth mindset interventions have been shown to be especially helpful for students of color. So there's this whole anti-racist element to it, which was something I just found out in the process of doing this. And another thing I'll mention briefly that I shared in the module is that I think I found myself that it was helpful to build a growth mindset on my own so that I could be more authentic and consistent in the way I support the students in building their own mindset, because the same sort of self-compassion, patience, and persistence that it helped me create in myself, I think kind of colors a lot of the way I interact with students in general in an almost automatic way. So yeah, I had fun doing it. I hope you'll have fun doing the module.
Can I just jump in and say, I've known Brett now for maybe a year and a half or 18 months. Wait, that is a year and a half. So a year and a half. And Brett has continuously always kept his eyes out for new research on growth mindset, and he's always expanding his pedagogical framework and fine-tuning his sense of how to use these things. So you absolutely have incorporated it and absorbed all of these principles of growth mindset, Brett. It's really impressive.
Hey, Tram, I should have you as a reference for my CCE.
Gee, I wonder.
Yeah, I guess I'm next for purpose and relevance. And just while we're singing Brett's praises, yeah, one thing that you brought out, Brett, I think when we first started this was the idea, and I experienced this. It was really difficult for me to think about how to apply the growth mindsets or communicate them to students until I was actually able to apply them or use them in my own life. And then once I started to do that, I said, "Oh, yeah, I've been doing this my whole life." I ask myself these questions whenever I am approaching something new. Can I do it? Do I want to do it? And do I belong here? So for the purpose and relevance, which is the question, do I want to do this? In my module, I was hoping to provide some information and context about what that is, but then also how to communicate that to students, and how do you weave that into your design of the experience over the course of the semester. And one thing about purpose and relevance, and having students understand why it's purposeful and personal and relevant. It can't just be always at the beginning of the semester, but that it's this kind of like thing you do each class, with each new little bit of information. It's important that they understand that, because our subjects are we love them, or we have passion about them, and they're so important to us. I assume for everybody. And then it just gets really frustrating when the students don't possess that same importance to what it is we're trying to offer them and share with them. And so, once I started making sure that everything I was giving to the students, that they could understand it's important for the course, but here's how it can fit into your life. They started to perk up a bit, and I've definitely gotten some great results. So I hope you enjoy the purpose and relevance, and find some unique and interesting ways to use them.
Have you seen the recent article in the New York Times about so many people in politics having a theater background, Arthur? What do you, it's right. I've always been impressed with people who've done theater because of their capacity to see themselves and to see their presentation very intentionally, and to even in terms of voice. And I think it's really important how you speak with people. What do you think, Arthur?
Oh yeah, no, I think, and I always tell my students, I'm gonna give you the skills to get everything in life you want. And I stay away, and I said, you could use these skills for light, or you can use these skills for darkness. I don't care. But you will, because at the
You
core,
don't care?
it's not my job, you know what I mean? Like, and again, I think that also gets them, they perks them up a little bit. Like, what do you mean I can possess these power? You know what I mean? Like, it really gets them thinking about how to use what we're teaching them in theater. And at the end of the day, whatever story you're watching, it is always about people who want something. And then they take specific actions to get what they want. And then they, of course, confront obstacles. So, again, that's, I think, why the growth mindset really, resonated with me as a theater artist, because it was always about, do I want to do this? What is the want, and how do you get it? So yeah, no, the theater is a great, at community college, I think everybody should be a theater major. Maybe not politicians, unless you're for good.
I can transition us into sense of belonging, which is quite soft in comparison to the other topics, I feel like. So I had a couple of things pop up for me when I was doing the work for sense of belonging. One, procrastination. I just kept putting this thing off, and I couldn't understand why. And then I realized it was because I am doing this thing before I even meet the people who are enrolled in the thing. And it's a very different experience than preparing as a professor for a live class, and then knowing that you can flexibly maneuver according to what's unfolding, because you're the one who gets to guide that. And I was like, oh my God, how do I do this? How do I design this? Knowing like this is it, to an extent, right? Even before we know anyone's enrolled. That was one of my bigger things. And then the other was like the rabbit hole of like sense of belonging as like an actual like topic in higher education research. And as a researcher with a doctorate degree, you know, I'm like, oh my God, I have to like do all these things and I have to find all the information and I have to figure out, I'm like, okay, girl, this is like, this is a course where it's like one module of an entire thing and people are doing this out of the kindness of their hearts to develop their professional teaching. So let's see what we can do here. But I think I wanted to share that because as a person who's done research, I don't do that much of it anymore. It's still like, oh, how much do I need to like know about the thing to share it with you? When in actuality, sense of belonging is not about knowing, it's about doing and testing and feeling and being with the student to see what feels good for you and creating a sense of belonging for that person in the space, which is why I was like, oh, if I make this more experiential, then maybe that's the place from which people can understand this. Of course, there's always going to be the literature on it, but at some point you just have to get started with trying things and feeling how it feels to be with students in a different way than you're used to. So yeah,
I love that phrase. You just have to get started. That's the most terrifying thing, right? It's really, yeah, I still hate starting a paper. Oh, there's everything is going off in this office. Sorry.
that's okay.
Thanks, Raquel. Can you say something about we've talked about this before as a group about how you felt as a brown girl in graduate school and going through school and that sense of alienation that sometimes hits us?
Yeah, I think that's why I love sense of belonging, because when I think about college, it actually is not the academic classroom that I ever feel any sense of belonging in until maybe I got to my PhD. It was all the stuff I did outside of it that was like, oh, I'm part of this institution and this community. And like, if I'm involved in this way, that's how I feel like I'm a part of it. And I had to work really hard to build that network outside the classroom. And I did that even in my PhD, where I created a student group of graduate students so that support was there, because academically, you know, the things that are covered in the classroom and the curriculum that's valued rarely represents me. And when it does, there's only like 1 or 2 courses on the roster of an entire department that says, oh, these are some texts about you. And that happened all through, you know, all 3 degrees. And so I forget often, like, it's something I value because I feel like I need to do something different than what was done when I was in the space, but it's not something people are used to, right? Like, there was something really basic that I was like, should I write this down? Should I tell people this? And I think it was just like, do you greet your students and tell them about your weekend or something? I wrote something really simple, but that was something I had to learn how to do, of like, oh, I don't just have to get started. I could say hello. Engage in conversation, right? You know, when you first start teaching, there's so much you're trying to undo from what you learned. That, you know, I was like, okay, I need to write it because it seems pretty simple. But I think we are running from class to class and doing so much that sometimes taking that breath to be like, oh, like, how are you? How am
Absolutely.
I? You know, how do we share that? You know?
Yeah. I think we are going to wrap up now because we don't want to, you know, hog all of your attention for, I mean, we would. I mean, we're gonna eventually organize a pizza outing and everybody's welcome to join. This is my dream to just, I've always just wanted to be hospitality queen. I don't really want to be on any other committees but hospitality. I do want to say in wrap up that as Writing Center Director at Hostos, I am doing a speed friending growth mindset workshop for students on Tuesday, like this coming Tuesday, August 29th or something, I don't know. And people are so excited. Faculty are so excited about it. Advisors are so excited about it. And so I think what we are all so invested here in this group is just this idea of how do we give students both the skills as well as the feelings of the potential of their academic careers, right? In terms of growth and effort, in terms of the value of the relevance of the work to outside in all aspects of their lives, and then how they are going to fit in, right? And how they are going to be able to mold their identity and contribute to the college as well. Because I think sense of belonging, I love what you said, Raquel, about sense of belonging and creating your communities as well, right? Yeah. Does anyone want to say last minute things? I could talk to you guys forever.
You're doing good. Good job, Tram.
Thanks so much.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank you.
everyone. Hope you enjoy all the modules, Brett.
Thank you for organizing and moderating us, Tram. Excellent work. And Arthur, Raquel, it's been wonderful working with you both.
Absolutely.